Jeff Ryan. I think I saw Kristen jump on as well. But if not, we got Jeff Ryan and Kristen. There's Kristen. They are our current ACI YP chair and co-chair. And Jeff Ryan, for those of you that don't know, is our young professional representative on the board of directors, which is an amazing opportunity for him. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them. Again, please remain muted, but have some fun today and get some knowledge. Jeff?
All right, thank you, Erica. I'm going to start out by giving kind of like Erica said, brief overview of kind of what the YP group has been up to for the past year and kind of what we do. And then we'll go over to the panelists and then break into our small groups. So let me share my screen here. Everybody see the presentation? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. So, like Eric said, I'm the committee co-chair with Terex Development Construction. Kristen Hano is I'm the chair. Kristen Hano is the co-chair from Messer Construction. The mission of our YP group is to shape future leaders of the Cincinnati area construction industry or construction community through advocacy, education, networking, and safety. We strive to achieve that mission through strategically focusing on workforce development and right-sized programming. Currently, we have over 250 YP members to our overall group, and then 25 or so of those members actually sit on the steering committee with us and help plan our events and provide feedback and whatnot. So with that, our intent is to have at least one YP sit on each of the various committees across ACI for kind of cross communication, information sharing of what else is going on throughout ACI. And then with the idea being that as the committee grows, the committee members grow and build their career, they eventually step onto those other committees once leaving the YP group, because they're the kind of the future of the organization and our industry. As I mentioned before, one of the components of our mission is to provide education and networking, and one of the ways we do that is through our we organize job site tours of the various projects through that our member companies are working on. So you see here some photos of our children's hospital tour that we did, that we had a great turnout for. We also just recently visited Icon music venue down on the Banks, but also have visited the Cincinnati Zoo Rue Valley project, the Masonic Lodge in Price Hill, and then coming up here in October, we will be visiting the FC Cincinnati Stadium project downtown. So these kind of events kind of allow us to get out in the field and see the projects that our peers are working on, learn about some really cool projects, and kind of network along the way. Each year we also organize network events like this one, the Ugly Sweater Networking event. And with this one, we try to do something a little bit different every year. This year we went to 16-bit arcade bar, which was a lot of fun. And while it sounds like we just drink beer and wear ridiculous attire, this event also raises money for raises funds for the Dragonfly Foundation to sponsor a family that's spending their holiday with a child battling cancer at Children's Hospital. So it's a lot of fun and also for a great cause. Community outreach is a very important component to our group, and so each year we participate in the PWC Repair and Prepare Fair events. So for those of you who don't know, the Repair Fair event, it helps families in our community make repairs so they can stay safely in their home. So these tasks usually range from painting, installing handrails, landscaping. We've done concrete work, replacing sidewalks and that kind of thing. And then the kind of the sister event to that is the Prepare Fair, which is very similar. Again, you're helping those in the community. But this event, it's more kind of winterizing homes and preparing them for winter. Raking leaves, cleaning gutters, and stuff like that. So again, it's a lot of fun. We've had a great turnout of over 20 people that have signed up over the past, I think it's probably the past 4 or 5 events. We've had over 20 people sign up for it. And we've helped out several families in the community. Fortunately, this past year, for obvious reasons, the spring event was canceled, but we're going to be participating in a kind of a revised hybrid version of the event later this year that we're still kind of working through the details on, that PWC has been working on as well, to try to still help those in need, because typically those are the people who are most vulnerable to COVID, but also the ones that are most in need of our services. So we're happy to help as much as we can. Another thing that the YP group does is we raise funds for a college scholarship, and also what we've officially branded the Skilled Trade Awards. So the scholarship is a $1,500 award for a student currently enrolled and seeking a degree from a regional construction-based college, construction-based program. Since the inception of this award in 2013, we've raised over $11,000 in scholarships, and plan on doing so in the future. So the Skilled Trade Awards recognizes and celebrates exceptional apprentices that are future leaders in their field and in our industry, with a $500 cash award. So each year we ask contractors from across the region to nominate kind of a rising star apprentice. First year we started doing this, we awarded 3 apprentices $500 awards. Since then, we've been able to grow it such that this past annual meeting in 2020, we awarded 10 apprentices. And we hope to do, when we met earlier this year, we set a goal to do the same for the 2021 annual meeting. So this cause, directly supports our focus and ACI's supports the workforce development initiative of ACI. So in the past, for these two, for the scholarship and for the Skilled Trade Awards, we've raised funds, working large festivals and various things like that, specifically Oktoberfest. So obviously with events like this being postponed or canceled, limited in size, we early on in this year, we realized we needed to get kind of creative on how we raise these funds, because our normal income just wasn't going to be there. So we had a small group of people that stepped up, and actually it was probably close to 8 people, so not that small. So we stepped up and kind of formed a subcommittee of the YP group, and kind of a fundraising group. So we were able to secure a grant from Blue & Co. for I believe it was $1,200 or so. And then also we are organizing an event that we've branded Say Yes to the Mess, which is something most of you probably have heard about. So this event will be basically a organization across ACI have nominated 13 nominees to essentially get messy for the trade awards. So what we mean by that is kind of imagine a combination of a food fight and a dunking booth kind of combined. So each organization that has nominated someone has a goal to raise at least $500, and I think actually at this point we've had several people that have blown that goal out of the water. So for each $100 that gets awarded, the nominee will get covered in a different item of food. So $100 chocolate syrup, $200 add eggs, $300 flour. So you kind of get the idea, but it's something that we think is gonna be a lot of fun. We put a lot of thought into, a lot of effort into, and we think it's gonna be a great event and have a great result. We've, as of a few days ago, I actually haven't looked in the past couple of days, but as of a few days ago, we've already raised $4,400. And my guess is that's already probably an outdated number. So kind of a broad 30,000-foot view of what the YP group is doing and kind of what's coming up. So like I mentioned, the Say Yes to the Mess event is actually, it's a typo there. So it's actually September 11th. Sorry about that. For the Say Yes to the Mess event. And the FC Cincinnati Stadium Job Site Tour is October 22nd. So those are our next two big events coming up that hope most of you can attend. So having said all that, I'd like to go into our panel discussion. Let's see, let me switch gears here. So before we go to our panelists, I just want to reiterate what Erica said before. If you could just make sure, I think I see everyone's on mute currently, but just make sure you're on mute so we kind of eliminate any background noise so we can focus on what the panelists are saying. And also up in, I believe it'll be your right-hand corner of your screen, you can switch between gallery view and speaker view. I recommend speaker view so that you can see the panels that are talking. So now I'll kick it over.
Jeff,
yes.
Forgive me. Whenever time permits, it may be a good idea to do introduction of the people that are attending this Zoom meeting, because a lot of people may not know each other, if time permits.
Yeah. So let's see, what's the best way to do that?
Jeff, usually if you're leading it, just call who you see in the order you see them. If you call on the people and then to have them do the introductions, it's the easiest way.
Okay. So you've all met Erica. I see her first. And then, so we have Terry Phillips and Phil O'Brien. We also have John Higgins, who we'll learn a little bit about here in a minute. We have John Westerkamp. And let's see, we have John Strasser. Sorry, everything just shuffled on me. Rick Scott. Joe Beischel. And so some people only have their first names here. So Jasmine, Paul Robinson, Matt Coles, Eric Wurtenberger, Majid. Sorry, Majid, I'm not even going to try.
That's quite all right. Samargandhi is the last name.
I apologize.
No apology needed.
Mike Boland, Michael Raitt, Anthony Riccardi, Whitney Eckert, Mark Lambert. Let's see, Mary Timmons. And then there's Kristen Honnell, Stephen Mann, Vince Morabito, Hannah Quinlan, and it looks like a mix between a first and a last name.
Yeah, that's me. It's Brent Ernstausen. I'm with Triton Services.
Okay, Brent. Let's see. Dave Osterday, Yanni Napier, Giovanna, there's another first initial last name there, Fangman, and Mr. Payne, Chris Scharf, Jen Galt, Danny Schwartz, Brandon Gerlander, and Sam Rossell.
Thank you, Jeff.
Sure. So now I'm going to hand it over to Kristen Honnell, our co-chair, who's going to introduce our three panelists. Go ahead, Kristen.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. So John Higgins will be our first panelist. He is a member of Frost Brown Todd, where he is a senior attorney and the go-to litigator for complex construction litigation, arbitration, and mediation. He has been on the board for a number of years and serves as a board liaison for the Entertainment Committee. Currently, John and the committee's focus is on a successful clay shoot in October and revamping the annual meeting. Thanks, John, for being here. John Strasser is our second panelist. He is the current COO at Valley Interior Systems. He has a passion for supporting the future of workforce development and has teamed up with ACI's construction career advocacy programs through his role with Spirit of Construction Foundation to develop innovative solutions to the #1 issue in the industry, filling the pipeline. Thanks, John, for being here. Whitney Eckert is our third panelist. She serves on Justin Construction's leadership team as the VP of Finances. She has played an integral role on many of the committees at ACI and is currently the board liaison for the Scholarship Committee, who is currently working to raise scholarship funds to be presented at the 2021 ACI annual meeting. Thank you, Whitney, for being here.
Thanks, Kristen. So I'm going to start out by have a kind of list of questions. We'll kind of make our way through. Kind of randomly ask these questions to the various panelists in no particular order or to no particular person. And then if we still have time, we'll kind of circle back and maybe revisit the same question with another panelist to get maybe a little bit different perspective. So I guess to start out, John Higgins, can you start out talking a little bit about how you go about handling your work-life balance and maybe some of the struggles you've dealt with throughout your career and kind of how you've kind of overcome those things.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning and speak with you all. I appreciate that very much. I am greatly honored to be on this panel. I view this as the opportunity for the YPs, not the board members, but the YPs, to ask any question you want to ask. Please, there's no question that's inappropriate. There's no dumb question. Ask anything you want, and it can be awkward on these Zoom conferences, but jump right in. I will not feel like you're interrupting me or anything. So if you have a question, just please ask it and jump right in. The only thing I would add to my introduction is I've been active at ACI since 2003, and started out on the education committee for about a decade, and then was on membership committee for a while, and have been on the board now for a while, and as part of the board, active with the entertainment committee as well. And I want to say this too. I don't know if this falls under another question, but I just want to make sure I say this to this group. ACI is really like extended family to me. I frequently say I see members of ACI more often than I see my cousins. Perhaps not in 2020 because of COVID and the limitation of events, But usually with the annual meeting and the, the picnic and the various outings, you see the same faces 7, 8, 9, 10 times a year, and it's really like extended family. And I'll also say this. So when I first started attending events, of course, I knew maybe one person, the person who I went to the event with, and it takes time. And after 17 years, now when I go to an event, I know probably 95% of the people. The people I don't know are usually the younger people. Now, having said that, I met a lot of the same people several times. Here's what that means. Who can I pick on? I'll pick on Phil. And this is not true. I'm just using Phil as an example. When I first went to an ACI networking event, I would go, "Hi, I'm John Higgins." And Phil goes, "Hi, I'm Phil O'Brien." And then 3 months later, I see Phil and I go, "Hi, I'm John Higgins." And he goes, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Phil O'Brien." And then the third time I see that same person 6 months later, I say, I have to apologize to you. I'm John Higgins. I've clearly not made any impression on you whatsoever because you have no idea who I am. And this is the third time we've met. Now, I don't recommend using that approach because the person might be offended. But the point of that was to make myself look bad, that I failed to make a good impression on you. And Phil, of course, knew me from day one because he has a very sharp mind, of course. But the point of that is don't be afraid to get out and mix, and don't be offended if people, probably now it's me that I've probably met some of you more than once and don't remember your names, but you have to get out there and mix it up. Now, to answer your specific question, and I'm toggling to look at my notes, how do you handle work-life balance? You have to compartmentalize, prioritize, and engage. And hopefully, you know what all those things are, but compartmentalizing means you have to, this is when I'm in work mode, this is when I'm in non-work mode, or this is when I'm in exercise mode, etc. You really have to be very focused on those things. And it can be challenging. In my case, for example, I'm at work and one of my children or my spouse is trying to text me about what we're going to have for dinner tonight or something like that. And so you have to have a time when you're going to address that, maybe at lunch or maybe when I take a break, I'll address that. But I would suggest you avoid constant interruptions while you're working, focus on your work. That's part of the compartmentalization. The biggest part of that is when you're done working, you have to turn off work and compartmentalize the work, put it over there, and then focus on what's in front of you. I think the catchphrase now is focusing on the moment that you're in. So my big thing at my house with my children and my wife and myself is at the dinner table, let's not be looking at text messages and work emails and things like that. Let's actually talk to each other and engage each other. The tough thing about our job, or at least about my job is really a 24/7 job where I have to be responsive all the time. But again, it's the same thing. If I have to address a work issue, I don't do it during dinner or when I'm talking to my kids. I'll find a time and I'll in a place and go do it. I think maybe one of the things we've learned with COVID is if you're working from home, you really have to compartmentalize. Hopefully you can find a space where you can go close the door. Like I'm in our home office now, and in theory, no one will interrupt me because they know that I'm working. So really compartmentalize. Prioritize. You have to realize the priority and importance of things. Frequently, that's very clear. Whatever has the shortest deadline is probably number one on your list. If you have something that's due today, obviously you should be working on that rather than something that's due next week. My comment on that as well is please do not procrastinate. A lot of people do that. They procrastinate and you wait until the last minute, and that tends to have a snowball effect. You procrastinate and wait until the day before something's due or the hour before something's due. And then what you realize is that, oh, now I've pushed back the other 10 things that are due tomorrow and the next day. So prioritize, figure out, it's sort of like triage as well. This is a big problem. This has to be done today. prioritize which ones have the closest deadline and or the biggest priority and focus on those. Engage is essentially what I was just saying. Don't wait until the last minute to do stuff. Be fully focus on the task at hand. And here's something else that helps me compartmentalize. I make a point to be, when my kids were younger, I coached their sports because I knew if I was out on a field, a baseball field or soccer field coaching, that I wouldn't be working and I would be engaged with my kids. So I highly recommend you do that if you get the opportunity to do it. And you don't have to have kids to do that. You can coach or volunteer anywhere, animal shelters, etc. That will get you engaged and take you away from work. You have to make an effort if you have a significant other to prioritize your significant other because you can't neglect your significant other or that'll be a huge problem for you. So you need to do things like date nights, date lunches, so on and so forth. My wife and I were both working attorneys at one point in time, and we would schedule date lunches. You know, we didn't have time for date dinners or date nights, but we would get together for lunch. And I highly recommend you not neglect your personal relationships. And the last thing I wanted to say about that, all of that, was you really have to be time efficient. And what that means is don't waste time. And this is a tough thing for people to learn. One of the, I really think the thing they teach in law school is how not to waste your time, because you don't have any choice. You're so busy that if you waste your time, you won't graduate law school. So they really teach you how to be extremely efficient with your time. And it's a great life skill no matter what you do. I have a 16-year-old daughter who wastes her time exponentially, and now she's working, she's playing sports, she's juggling her academic schedule, and she's realizing the importance of being very time efficient. I suggest the same to you. And by the way, the more efficient you are with your time, the easier all of this gets of juggling your work-life balance. And I have said this about working out, which is my weakness, as you can tell by looking at me. I've had points in my life when I've been in incredible shape, and I've had points in my life when I've not. And for a lot of people, myself included, that can be one of the first things that you forego. You know, I'm not going to work out today. Try not to do that. It's working out. It's a great release, whatever. And working out is whatever you define it as. Maybe it's just taking a walk. Maybe it's going to a class. Maybe it's riding a bike. Just something to keep your blood moving and your blood pumping. And I've tried various things. I've tried before I had children, it was always after work in the evening, and I've tried at lunchtime. I've tried very early in the morning. So if you can find something that's a huge part of your life balance, is, you know, keep your blood pumping, so to speak. And on that note, I have probably spoken way too long, so I'll stop there.
No, that's great. Thanks, John. Next question, I'll pass over to Whitney. Whitney, what are your expectations of YPs now, and at the different tiers of their career as they progress?
Well, thank you. Just like John said, I think he answered the question very thoroughly, and I concur on everything he said about this. And I'm also very honored to be speaking with you guys today. So my expectation of YPs are not really any different than my expectations of myself and the other people on my leadership team that I work with, the people that work for me. It's put yourself out there. It's challenge yourself. I meet with my YP who is on this call, Vince. We meet every 2 weeks. Well, we actually sit across from each other, so we meet every 5 minutes, but talking about what personally he wants in life, what he wants for his wife and his family, professionally, what he wants, challenging him to do things that are outside of his comfort zone. And we do that with all of our YPs here. And I want to see progression. So where I want him to challenge me as well. So we bounce ideas off each other. you know, he challenges me when he asks me questions. He will ask any question. He's not afraid, which is great. So please, there is no stupid question. I mean, ever. If somebody says it is stupid, then, well, then put them aside, because constantly asking questions. One thing I found, we had a co-op come in this summer from Ohio State, and I had done some research. My son was a co-op at Messer before he graduated, and I asked him, when you co-op, what did you like about it? What did you not like about it? He said, when we're co-oping, I wanted to understand what it's like to be in the room and see how decisions were made. And that struck home for me, because when you understand the big picture and then drill it down to the details is what makes everything up. So I try to give all of our people opportunity to be in the room, to understand why we're doing, transparency with their work, so that they enjoy it, so that when they go home, they enjoy their home life. And, you know, family is everything for me. Family is everything for our business. And I think that's why most of us are working, so we can enjoy work, but go home and have the experiences with our family and friends to enjoy life.
Thank you, Whitney. For John Strasser, as COO, we've obviously kind of been in some unprecedented times with the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what kind of things you've done to lead during these times, and you know, the challenges that you've come across, and what you've done and your company's done to prepare for, you know, future downturns, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Following up what Whitney and John said, thank you for this opportunity. It is quite an honor to be sitting in a room with some of my peers that I respect very much, and to be on this panel is an honor. Following what John said real quick, I've been involved with ACI since 1987. My father made it a point that we get involved immediately. ACI has been a partner to help Valley grow over the years, including the Joe Beischels, the Phil O'Briens, the Whitneys, others, Mark Lambert. So thank you for this opportunity. The pandemic has been new to everyone. And the biggest thing I've learned is that everyone is experiencing change. Everybody's got stress in their life that they never knew would occur, including the business, shutting the business down for 2-3 weeks, trying to determine every new step. So understanding the stress that people are going through, and including all of us, including myself, we all handle it different. We all look at it differently. But also that the solutions aren't the same as they used to be in the past, which is a negative and a positive. And I'll choose to go on the positive side of it, that we have learned new ways to figure out how to do things. You know, we're on this call today. These calls are going to remain constant for years to come, good or bad. But it is going to allow us to look at and do things a little bit different. We have to learn how to be more open to suggestions because it is new, and understanding that the way we used to do things may not be the same. And if we can figure out and listen to others who might have thought about a situation a little bit more than one of us, they may come up with some brilliant ideas. And the biggest thing is to try to figure out how to limit stress. I come back to that because it is just the new normal. None of us are enjoying much of what is going on, and ways to figure out how to lower that in our office, how to make it a little bit more fun, how to celebrate the successes. We are not getting the gatherings like ACI in the YP do, where those are limited. So how do we figure out how to create a new environment that is better for all of us moving forward? So it's just accepting what is going on and modifying from it and learning from it. We will all be better for this when it's done. It's just while you're during it, it's very difficult. I remember back in 2008, we never thought we'd see the end of that. You know, 10 years later, we had record construction throughout the market, throughout the country. So it will change, it will get better. But the biggest thing is my point is to limit stress and learn from it. it's a good opportunity to really learn how to do things differently and potentially better.
Thank you. I think we're doing good on time here. We have about 20 minutes. So I'd like to, this next question, I think I want to kind of pass around to each of the three panelists. It's a fairly broad question, but something I think we could all learn from. So John, since we're still looking at your screen, if you give one piece of advice to your young self entering into the construction industry, what would it be?
I'll go two real quick. One is to continue to listen. Always listen first. There's a lot of knowledge out there that can be gained. And tying into that while you're listening, put your head down for 10 years. Don't try to look at titles. Don't try to look at salaries. Don't try, it's all important. It's going to be there. But put your head down and pop it up in 10 years and see where you're at. Because the work hard, doing the right things, being present in the moment will definitely move you forward faster, better than trying to just make your only goal in life is to get the title.
Let's see.
Jump in on that, Jeff, if that's okay.
Sure.
Let me go back to my notes here. This was my favorite question when we saw the questions in advance. What advice would I give to my younger self? Have patience. As John just said, it's a marathon. Also, aim high and know your statistics. Patience is an obvious thing. Here's the problem with everyone in the world. They want to be the boss today. They want to graduate high school, college, grad school, trade school, whatever, and then next week they want to be the CEO of the company. That's not how life works, folks. As my father-in-law said to me years ago, like the Maytag commercial, the quality goes in before the name goes on. So like John was saying, you got to have that period of time where you're putting in the quality, where you're learning what you need to learn, where you're becoming the best at what you do. And this, it doesn't matter what you do. To me, this applies across the board. So you need to have patience and realize that it is a marathon and it's not going to happen necessarily overnight, but it will take a period of time. Secondly, aim high. When I was a young lawyer, I always had extremely high goals. For example, I wanted to be listed as one of the best lawyers in America. I wanted to be on the ACI board. I wanted to litigate a multi-million-dollar case. And for several years, at the end of the year, and I wrote down these goals, by the way, that's one of the things, write down your goals. And at the end of the year, and I would go to my boss, and my boss would say, how many of your goals did you accomplish? And it would be 1 out of 10. And it's very frustrating because you're very slowly making progress. And my boss said, you aim high, and I like that. You don't set the bar too low where it's very easy to accomplish the goals. And over a period of time, as I sit here today, those same 10 goals that I had 20 plus years ago, I've now accomplished 99% of them. So write down your goals, aim high, and make sure it's what you really want to do. If you want to be CEO of the company, write it down and then go figure out how to achieve it. Get the education, get the experience, so on and so forth. And the last thing is, I say know your stats. Part of having goals is knowing your stats. Well, I lost the screen here, so hopefully you can still see me. You have to know your whatever the stat is that measures your progress, whether it's productivity, in my case, say it's billable hours or it's credits for work done. You have to keep track of that. Here's one maybe you can all relate to. If you were a baseball player and your goal was to have 200 hits in a season, you can't just not keep track of your total and then 2 weeks before the season's over go, wow, I only have 120 hits. How am I going to get 80 hits in the next week? You have to keep track of that stuff and hold yourself accountable on a regular basis for that. Now, sometimes it's beyond your control. If there's a pandemic or something like that, it might be beyond your control. Or if you're a younger person, a lot of things that might be your goals or you're trying to track might be beyond your control because you don't have the opportunity or the access to those things. And then part of what you need to do is figure out how to get access to those things. Go talk to Majid or Phil or somebody like that and see what you need to do. Join the YP committee and show up at ACI, things like that. And I think that's all I have on that one. I'm going to see if I can press mute and get you.
And I'll just add a few things to that, Jeff. I concur with both what John and John said. In particular, John Strauss are talking about don't be focused on the title. You got to be focused on getting your experience. One thing I learned early on is to communicate. You know, I made a mistake early on in my career. I was working part-time and I decided, you know, I wanted to do, instead of working mornings, I wanted to work afternoons. I was still working the same amount of time, but I never communicated that. And that was like, they're like, who do you think you are? And I'm like, I don't know, because clearly I didn't communicate, which, and then it's just how you handle stress. Waking up every morning, being grateful for what you have. Gratitude is a wonderful thing. It can put you in a really good frame of mind every day. What I tell everybody here is if you can't get it done today, you don't get it done today, just sit down and figure out how you're going to get it done tomorrow. We're problem solvers. That's what gives us jobs. And you keep moving forward. So instead of harping on yourself, be reflective for sure, but then figure out how you're going to move forward and continue on with what you're doing if you weren't able to accomplish what you did that day. I know many of us in construction know you can have the best laid plans every day, and if you get to tackle one of them, you're probably lucky. So it's a fast moving industry and change comes at you fast.
Thank you. So 15 minutes, so we'll keep going here. When it's okay, I'll stick with you for a second. So I'm actually gonna kind of combine a question that John Higgins asked earlier and kind of combine it with another one. So can you talk a little bit about how you keep up with kind of industry related events, and you know how often you kind of check these sources, and then kind of combine that with how do you sift through all the different options of industry related events and balance that with work and life and you know, just how do you sift through all those options?
Right. We have a lot of things that we can attend. It's really, for me, I started early on in an association, Construction Financial Management Association, that was related to what I did, which was great because I got to meet a lot of my peers. But then I soon realized that I needed to broaden my exposure, not to just the financial professionals in the construction industry. I needed to get to know everybody. And then it was working with my teammates here at Jostin, and we divide and conquer. So we all find events that are going on that would be beneficial, and we may attend together. As John said, you attend after so many years, you can go to any event on your own because you're going to know most of the people there. So we work as a team to say, okay, there's these events. It's important for Jostin to have presence there. It's important for us professionally to have presence there. And then we decide who is the right person to attend that event. And like, I will always go to an ACI event. A, I'm on the board, but B, I know everybody there, and it's just great networking. So networking is probably one of the most important things in your career as it is doing what your daily job is, because relationships are what keep it moving forward for yourself professionally and for your business. And then as far as checking what are the right things to attend, I've been to a lot that I have come back and said, no, that was not the right thing. I think it's trial and error. The other part is you bounce your ideas off of other people that you know. Have you been to this event? But sometimes you just need to get out there and see what's going on and make the decision. What might be right for John may not be right for me, but we may attend the same event and then he may go next year and I may not. So I think it's trial and error, but putting yourself out there.
Okay. Well, I guess as a follow-up question, what would you tell the a young professional who is starting to go to those types of events, and I know I've been in the position before where I have the option to go to an event. It's 4:30 after a long day. May not be the first thing on your list that you'd want to do at that time. What kind of advice would you give that person at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday who has to go to a 3-hour long event?
Go. I would say go, and I would say plan ahead. So you might, on Sundays I sit down and I plan out my next week, probably 2 weeks. What events do I have coming up? For events, I plan a month or 2 months ahead. So you know which ones you're going to attend. I would say start by attending, one a month, but definitely go. Because you just never know who you're going to meet. And it may not even be somebody that's going to help you in your industry today, but you need them, you resource them 3 years down the line. So I would definitely say, if you're hesitant, go. And even if you're not hesitant, still go.
Okay, thank you. Go over to
Real quick, Jeff.
sure, yeah. I was going to kick it to you anyway.
As John earlier said that the last question was his favorite. This one was a wake-up call for me because of the pandemic. I have deprioritized these issues, and even with the moments and some of the advocate program and some of the things I'm working on right now, I have not been present in the moment because of, be it on Zoom, be it with masks on, whatever it might be. So finding these moments and reconnecting are important. And again, it was just a wake-up call and a lesson learned for me during this process that I need to be more present. I need to include these because that is what has been part of my career, my life, is making the relationships that I have on this screen. So I just wanted to kind of bear it a little bit, but I have struggled with this over the last couple months. So yes, thanks for the question, but two, it is a priority and it needs to be. And also, like I said, I have not been present in a lot of the moments because I've been thinking about something else due to the pandemic. So these events can be wonderful. And the relationships and the people on the screen, like I said earlier, have helped build my career and build Valley Interior. So looking forward to getting back together with everyone, but yeah, a great question.
Jeff, we have 2 questions that have come in privately to me. Are you okay if I ask them real quick?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the first question, and now I lost it. So I'm going to start with this one. I would like to know the panelists' thoughts on mentorship throughout their careers, what they relied on, what they relied on mentors for, how they kept in touch, how they approached the relationship, how they returned the favors to their mentors to make sure it was mutually beneficial for the relationship throughout. So basically anything that you guys can share on mentorship, and then I'll find that second question again real quick. Whitney, do you want to start?
Sure. Finding a mentor when you're a YP is challenging. And I found that I met with a couple of people who I thought, oh, they'd be a great mentor. Finding a mentor is more like it evolves. You have to, as you go to these events, you get to know people, and our personalities tend to click with certain types of people. And then it's really then putting yourself out there and reaching out to them and engaging with them. And if you have that relationship, that's why I say attending these events. And I agree with John. Visit the virtual events. We're getting used to them. It's challenging, but it's not being afraid to reach out and ask the questions. Once I got into a group of people at another association, we had kind of a chat box that we bounced ideas off of each other. So I don't know that I ever really had one specific mentor, but I had a lot of relationships that I had built where I could we could reciprocate back and forth with each other. So I think it's just really pushing, attending the events, building the relationships. Relationships are everything, and you're gonna know who you connect with. You're gonna have that dialogue. Not that I don't like everybody, but some people click better than others, and you just feel more comfortable. And then if you feel that, don't be afraid to reach out and ask them to have coffee, or have a phone call, or go to lunch, and then it will just continue to evolve. So it's just communicating and putting yourself out there.
I'd like to address that question if I could, Erica.
Mhm.
In my career, I've had various types of mentors. In the legal profession, you always have formally assigned mentors, and usually you have a partner level mentor and associate level mentor. And years ago, when I started, my partner level mentor, and I worked at a different firm up in Cleveland, and didn't know who I was, didn't know my name, didn't know my face. It was really, it did not work. He didn't care. He was not engaged. It was just a disaster. That's not how the relationship should work. A mentor, really, there are two types. There are the formally assigned, and I don't know how formal your organizations may be about that. And then there are the informal, the people who you just gravitate to and respect and ask their advice. One of the important things about showing up at various events at ACI and other places is to meet people and to get to know people. And it's not always just to get new business or grow your business. It's to, you might meet someone who you like and respect, and they can become an informal mentor to you, and you ask their advice on career issues and things like that. And there's at least one person on this call today who I would consider an informal mentor to me. And you learn to respect and appreciate that. Likewise, there's at least one person on this call today who I have informally mentored that person and given them advice. So that's why you want to develop those relationships, someone you can trust and respect and get feedback from them. Your mentor, in my opinion, you should be able to ask any question, and those questions to be very technical about your work. How do I do this? I'm a lawyer, so it's, do you have an example of a motion for summary judgment that I can use? Will you look at my work product and tell me what you think? Or as you get older or more experienced, the questions become office politics. Hey, I'm having a hard time dealing with this person. Can you give me some advice on how to handle this situation? So I strongly encourage you to find someone like that if you don't have a formal assigned mentor at your firm or at your organization. And it doesn't have to be someone at your organization. That's one of the points. And by the way, I don't have just one mentor. I have several. I probably have 5 or 6. And I said some are formally assigned, and some are just informal. I've had relationships with people for years and respect. I will tell you this, I don't know if this is something that is practical in the construction industry, but in the legal world, people can volunteer with the Supreme Court to be mentors to brand new lawyers, and I do that. And you basically get a blind date. So whenever somebody passes the bar exam, I'll get an email and say, John, you're going to be the mentor for Peggy Smith. So I literally do not know that person. I've never met them. They don't know me, but we meet approximately 12 hours, for lunch or something, 12 different lunches or happy hours or something over the next, and they sort of throw you together on that blind date to develop a mentoring relationship with someone that you've never met before. And the significance of that is it's usually someone at a totally different organization, totally different level. So I don't know if that's something that YP could consider or not. That might be impractical for construction, but that's something they do in the legal world. Thanks.
I'll just finish up real quick. The highest honor I have in my career right now is to be asked to be a mentor. So don't be afraid to ask. it's a compliment. And as John just said, there's, Jack Scott's on this call. Jack is an informal mentor of mine. He may not know that. But thank you, Jack, for all the experience you've taught me over the years. But yes, don't be afraid to ask. It is quite an honor.
Any other question, Erica? You're on mute.
Yes, Ryan, Jeff, I'll ask it. This is the last question, and then what we're going to do is break into small groups, and I'll go over that in just a second. But the last question is, what tools or strategies have helped you work and lead through tough times like the COVID pandemic? So just maybe one or two of your top tools or strategies that you've used.
I can
Whitney?
start with that. Over communicate. You can't communicate with your colleagues, employee. I mean, you just can't over communicate with everybody. One of the things we did early on was we took our entire employee base. We have a leadership team of 9. We took the entire employee base and we divided it up, and we all had I'm going to say 15 to 20 employees that we needed to contact every week just to see how they're doing. How you feeling? Because, I don't know how I'm feeling. It's a crazy time. And then just, getting really, really quick. Fortunately, we had switched over to a virtual environment in late fall of last year. So we were lucky that we were all ready to go remote when everybody got sent home. So that was, but we still had to work through some kinks. So it was over communicate, and educate yourself on a daily basis with the changes that were coming at us.
Perfect. John Strasser, you want to share anything?
What Whitney said is 100% correct. My biggest thing is learn to smile a little bit more. Understand that a smile can ease pain. It can ease a little bit of stress. It shows that you're welcoming, and during these times, a friend may be all someone needs for a moment. So that's kind of my recommendation, and also a recommendation myself when I was younger. So just learn to smile a little bit more, and things will get a little bit better.
Wonderful. That's awesome. And John Higgins, any last minute additions for that?
I'll just reiterate what Whitney and John just said. It sounds silly to say smile more, but I find that to be 100% true. I've given enough public panel speeches or spoken in public to realize if you can just smile, people will perceive you as very warm and positive. It's hard when you're on these Zoom calls because there's a camera on you constantly, whether you know it or not, and it's hard to just smile nonstop. But I always try to make a point if I'm speaking publicly to smile. It's just people will perceive you in a total different way than if you're grumpy or not. Obviously, and what Whitney said is communication is the key. You have to have constant communication. So you have to reach out to people, even if it's just checking in. I know when COVID first started, especially, even my friends and clients and whatnot, you just reach out. Hey, are you guys safe? Are you healthy? Are you doing okay? And even if it's a brief conversation, people appreciate that you reached out. And by the way, sometimes they say, no, I'm not. Can you help me? Can you help me solve this problem? And the last thing that the best advice I heard at one of our management meetings during COVID is that I think it was put this way: show some grace. I said, if someone who normally is a very good worker seems a little frayed around the edges or gives you something later than they normally would, or perhaps not the quality of work product you're used to, show a little grace, because you don't know what's going on in people's lives. They might be the primary teacher for their 7-year-old. They might have a very ill parent living with them, with COVID or something like that. And these are real life examples, by the way, of things I've encountered. It might be someone whose spouse has COVID and is in the hospital. There's a lot of stress on a lot of people this year. So have patience and don't be, so it seems more and more as the year goes on, there's a lot of hostility and people overreact and their immediate reaction is anger. So I would say, please don't do that.
Erica, can I step in real quick?
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave the group that John talked about. One of the best things he's heard. My daughter texted me the other day and said, teaching a 3-year-old to blow his nose is the most common thing ever. He just said, this is not working. Time to make a new plan to get the boogers out. So as a business, times are not the same. And so wisdom from a 3-year-old, but sometimes it's just time to make a new plan. So thought I'd share that.
That's amazing, John. We're going through the same thing over here.
All right. Well, thank you thank you to our 3 panelists who not only took time out of their day, but took time to prepare for this and share some things about their career and a lot of great advice. And I know I learned a lot, and I think everybody else did as well. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us this morning. With that, I'll hand it over to Erica, who will talk a little bit how we're going to break into our small groups here.
Wonderful. Jeff, Kristen, Whitney, John, and John, thank you guys so much. Again, awesome advice for all of us. A shameless plug again about say yes to the mess. I know that there are some individuals on this call that are supposed to be getting messy. Cough, cough, Jeff. We have some representatives from Jostin and Valley who are doing it as well. So if you guys haven't checked out Say Yes to the Mess, voting is open until September 4th, and we will be live streaming thanks to Chris Scharf and Eric Wertenberger. We'll be live streaming from ACI on September 11th, where you guys can all see our nominees get a little messy for the trade.